And the only reason I know that is because my mom kept that, and there weren't any eyes left on it. So
There weren't any eyes left on it. If you want to know what there wasn't any eyes left on that Lannie's talking about, you need to come back straight after this. I need to get going, mate. I'll see you later. Hello, everybody. It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. It's knocking off time. Stop your work. Put it away. Spreadsheets off. CRM systems, close them down. We're just going to talk about music. I've got Lannie Flowers with me. Thanks for joining me, sir. All the way from where are you coming from?
Arlington, Texas.
Oh,
it's 11 o'clock here.
Yeah. We used to have 11 o'clock. Yeah, we used to have a DIY place in the UK called Texas Home Care. That's as near to Texas as I've ever got. Now, just before the break, the advert break, you were saying that you used to chew the eyes off it, and people may be thinking, "What is that? Was that a rabbit or some kind of creature?" But actually, it was a teddy bear, wasn't it? You were talking about?
Yeah, it was a little teddy bear, kind of yellowish, and that's all I remember.
That's your first toy that when you were young.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're not here to talk about toys. We're here to talk about music. Take me back though to when you were a wee nipper. What's your first kind of memories of music?
Oh, just my parents listened to country music on the radio, just hearing that, and just seeing Saturday night country shows on TV, local stuff. And and the girls next door, they turned me on to all the rock and roll stuff because they were older. So
was that the interest there was the girls, or was that or did you too young for that at the time? Or so were you listening to what they were listening to be cool with the girls, or just because what you were hearing was really good?
Well, there was a show that came on after school called Where the Action Is, and so all the older girls would go to their house to watch it. So of course I would sneak in and do that. I was only 10 years old, but I knew something was going on. I just didn't know what yet. So
you thought, look, all the cool girls are going next door. I've got to be there. What sort of thing? Can you remember any of the music that was on from then?
Oh, just what was on the radio, like mid late 60s. I don't know, just Party Van the Raiders or whoever.
Yeah. Quite a lot of British music as well. You had things
like
Beatles and the Stones and things like that.
Of course, that's what got me interested in music was the Beatles.
Yeah,
because that just opened my mind to songwriting as opposed to just some guy writes your song and the lead singer sings up front and the band's in the back, and Bobby V, or I don't know, something like that. One of those guys.
We'll come back to it in a minute. But I was listening to your new album earlier. Thank you very much for letting me listen to that. And I could immediately hear a little bit of Beatles kind of influence on some of the tracks on there.
I'm sure you did. Anything with harmonies and guitars, it kind of reminiscent of that, because they kind of did that.
That's what they did, and they did it so well. So from then, when was the first time you actually picked up an instrument? When did you start?
I was about 8 or 9 years old, but my parents bought it for me and wanted me to play it, but I didn't care because I was a kid, so I just wanted to do kid stuff.
Yeah.
So I really, when I got interested in it, was about 12 years old at school. It was after Christmas, and everybody brought something that they got for Christmas and told a story about it.
Yeah, show and tell, we call that.
Yeah. So, uh, so this friend of mine brought in an electric guitar and an amp, and all the girls were oohing and ahhing, and I'm going, okay, there's something I need to get in on this.
Yeah.
And so right after that at lunch, I said, hey, you just live right up the street. Why don't we start a band? So then a couple of months later, the high school, which is the upper, I don't know, teenager, I don't know what they call it there, but the high school let us do the intermission at their beauty pageant. And
Oh,
and so, girls were screaming and high school girls were talking to me at 12 years old. And I was like, hey, this is a pretty good deal. I
well,
think.
what were you doing? You were playing covers and stuff at that
Oh
time?
yeah. I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
12 years old. Yeah. Yeah. We didn't know
Amazing.
anything. I think we played all my loving, probably really bad, but
It doesn't matter.
it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. What was it? Was it the typical kind of, if we play it loud enough and with enough energy, then it will be great.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't know any different. I didn't know any different till I was I don't know, late 20s. I thought that's what he did.
Do you know what? That's the lovely thing about musicians from our era, right? Is that, and you see it slightly less these days, because I think a lot of young people going into music now, they kind of almost, some of them miss out on that. They kind of almost understand that it's a business as well, right from the start, and they think that they need to go through proper steps and get properly educated to a certain level and really understand their instrument before they start things. We just went, I'm going to be in a band. You just said it yourself. I just go, do you know what? Should we make a band?
Yeah, exactly. And I came from a small town in Texas, so there's only one guy that had a drum set, and we had to talk him into joining our band. He was older than us, and I don't think he was real keen on it right off the bat. But
yeah, but that's a recurring theme on a lot of these chats that I have with people of from a certain period, is that you used to look for people that had kit. If you've got an amp, you've got a set of drums. It was even like I can remember some bands at the time when I was young. It was even things like, well, you've got a set of lights.
Mm-hmm.
you can come and play something in the band.
Yeah, and then it became, oh, you have a PA system? Well, then you're in the band.
Yeah. Or you can be manager because you've got a PA system, right? Yeah. What else does a manager do? Well, they just you drive the van, you get the PA out, you set it up, and we'll buy you a drink.
And we don't pay you. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll buy you a drink.
Yeah.
But the girls will love you. Don't worry.
That's right. And at that point, that usually works.
Yeah.
If you can get a free drink, and yeah.
So when did you start getting serious about music?
Probably when I was about 15. I was into David Bowie, Mott the Hoople, and all that stuff. And I was playing bars at 15 where I wasn't even supposed to be in there, but we would sneak in and play. But a lot of times there was a place in Fort Worth, Texas called Jacksboro Highway. It was a real rough thing. And so they actually did have a chicken wire in front of the stage, and we would play behind the chicken wire to old men.
Actual Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Scenario.
It was, yeah. Kind of like that.
Yeah. Did you ever play Rawhide or
No. We would learn a couple of country songs and then play Alice Cooper or something. And it was not what they wanted to hear.
You mentioned, you said Mott the Hoople, David Bowie. I mean, did you get into David Bowie from Mott the Hoople? That because he wrote All the Young Dudes.
It's all about the same time.
Okay.
I actually got into Mott the Hoople earlier because I heard Rock and Roll Queen on FM radio, and I go, "Who's this?" And then just kind of got into it that way. And the first
Yeah.
David Bowie song I actually heard was "Changes." I
Yeah.
just heard it one day after school. I go, "What is this?" I didn't know what he looked like or anything. I just liked that song. I went and bought Hunky Dory, and it was all over at that point.
Oh no, absolutely fantastic. What the chameleon of rock pop music.
Oh yeah, exactly.
David Bowie changes literally over his career so many times, right up to the end. So,
well, that's what I loved about buying his records. Is you didn't know what you were going to get. Sorry to interrupt you, but it was
no, absolutely. I mean, is that what you like about most artists? If there's a little bit of the unexpected,
and that's what I liked about the Beatles, because you didn't know when you bought it, took it home, put it on. Who knew what was going to happen?
Yeah.
So that was, or like over here, the Beatles would put out their albums right before Christmas. So those are always Christmas gifts for me because I couldn't afford them.
Now, within any musician's career, there's those famous influences. There's the musicians that you aspire to be, or that you look up to, and you like their music. But there's always those unsung heroes that actually are really instrumental in your career as well. Who along the way have been your sort of unsung heroes? Who have you met over the years and have worked with that have been?
Oh, well, I've never met or worked with these people, but probably like Ray Davies and Ian Hunter. I know they're not unsung heroes over there, but those are huge influences for me, just from a songwriting standpoint. But there were, gosh, I don't really have a good answer for.
Well, what about people that you've been in bands with yourself, or you've musicians you've played alongside over the years?
Well, yeah, one of my best friends, Danny Wilkerson, he has an album out on Spider Pot Big Stir. You need to check that out. We've been friends since the late 70s, and he plays drums and I play guitar. We played in bands off and on, and I just play with a lot of different people, and they all influence you in different ways. Some good, some bad,
Really? Is there a bad way to influence a musician?
Yeah, when your guitar player is playing in a blues scale and it's supposed to be a major scale, you go, no, can't you tell that's wrong?
Oh yeah, no, that's yeah. Well, unless you're deliberately trying to be really avant-garde and go that way, maybe.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we were doing Velvet Underground at that point.
No, I mean, if you were, then it's absolutely fine.
Oh yeah.
If you're purposely trying to deconstruct music and try and make something unique and different, then maybe. But yeah. Oh, well, what about music that's coming out these days? Do you listen to any of that? Is there anything that actually grabs your attention, or do you tend to find yourself gravitating back to stuff of yore?
I try. There's just nothing that, I'm sure there's things that I would love, but I just haven't come across them. If you're just talking about what they play on the radio now, is that what you?
Just generally what's coming out.
In America, really, unless you do hip hop or bad country, you don't get played on the radio. So I can't do either one. I could probably write a bad country song.
Bad country. Is that a term over there? Bad country.
It is for me.
Okay.
I'm being nice by saying bad.
Yeah. Well, we're not without naming names. I mean, we're talking what sort of country that's more grounded in pop than it is in country.
The top 40 country now is just bad rock and roll with a southern accent,
Yeah.
And you got to sing about a tractor and a beer and a truck and same thing.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. There are some very, very, very funny skits.
Yes, there are.
There's some very, very funny comedic skits with my son's played me those where SNL I think have done some really skits where they've pretended to be these kind of singers, and it's all about my tractor is this and my and it's just hilarious.
It's almost like you have to play the same chords, and then you have to throw a beer and a country road and a pickup truck, and it's just like enough is enough.
It's so formulaic. You could literally just write it on a sheet of paper and give it to someone and say, there you go. Yeah. So what makes good subject matter for you in terms of songs?
Oh, wow. Just anything. You could be listening to somebody in a restaurant and go, oh, that's a good idea for a song. And just, or in a bar or walking down the street or a movie, just.
Yeah. Are you quite a people watcher? Have you always been a voyeur of people, if you like?
I think I probably picked that up from Ray Davies, because he could write a song about a trash can, make it sound romantic,
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I went to England and I saw these things that I'd heard Kink songs about. I go, oh, that's just a street, or that's just an area of town or whatever. It's just, and I was going, he made it sound so great. And, it's just the street. It's the same way with Strawberry Fields. When I finally saw Strawberry Fields, like, oh, it's just a gate with some weeds behind it.
I think Ray Davies has influenced a lot of songwriters in that way. I mean, even people like Damon Albarn from Blur, was very influenced by Ray Davies. It's just that idea of looking at, as you say, everyday life and, being, just trying to put that out there to people. You perhaps know the Blur album, Modern Life is Rubbish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a very, very much sort of, there's a song on there called Advert, advertisements are here for rapid persuasion, but if you stare too long, you'll lose your appetite. What a great line, it's just, it's just literally looking at an advert and going, that's what that does.
Yeah. So what's going on in Britain now as far as music goes? I mean, is there anything like that still going on, or is it just?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time for music, full stop, across the world. I think in Britain, obviously we've got a real grime scene, that all of that kind of thing going on, and the charts are the charts.
Yeah.
Chart music, to some extent, every generation turns around and goes, oh, the stuff in the charts isn't as good as it used to be. Yeah. Actually, the chart music has always been, to some extent, the lowest common denominator.
Oh, that's the way it is here too.
It's always been that. Of course, the trouble is when every generation looks back, you see the highlights of the charts, and you go, "Oh, look, there was the Beatles on Ready Steady Go," or "Oh, look, there's this band on from the '80s that were on Top of the Pops," and wasn't that a fantastic performance? But there will have been a lot of other bands on that week that weren't so good.
Yeah, that's the thing about. So we have oldies radio stations over here, and they play the same 20 songs. And how many oldies, were there from 1960 to 1995 or whatever? A million, and you got 20. So,
well, I think that's a problem with. I think that is a global problem with commercial radio, which I'm not sure whether commercial radio is ever going to resolve, which is that we've seen that in the UK as well, is that radio stations have been brought up by groups try and formalize those radio stations, and the output gets made into a play. I mean, it was happening even when I started in radio. I was really lucky though. and I've talked about this to musicians before. I started on the graveyard shift, and which everybody does. And the one thing that was always great about the graveyard shift, which was, you know, playing sort of radio at 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, is that no one was listening from the radio station, so you could get away with playing whatever you liked, and it really allowed you to cut your teeth. And if you actually got a little following from that, and you then got promoted into the day, you tried to push it a little bit, you know. And I had arguments many a time with our station manager because I tried to push it. I remember the first time I played, you know, the Stranglers, Peaches in the middle of the day, and it's like, you know, there's a swear word in that song. Sorry, no, I didn't. But you know, but you know, for me, I think there's always, as we try and make things fit into a little box and we try and formalize them, there's always a group of people that push against that. Yeah. So I think there is some tremendous new music out there coming from young people as well. And I think almost one of the problems these days is there's too much.
That's exactly it. Yeah. What do you choose? Because you've got 5 million things to choose from. And whereas used to it was all channeled through, you know, this format. And so you'd go into a record store, you go, oh, that looks good. I've never heard this, but you know, so you'd find the Clash or I don't know, whatever. You know. Yeah. The amount of times that I've just gone into a record store and bought something because it was under the right sort of section, or whatever, and it had a great cover, and I thought I might just try that. Or I actually, at one point, I used to go into a record station in Sunderland, a record shop in Sunderland, and the guys knew me there by name, and they would go, "Hey, Graham, you want to listen to this?" And they put the record on, and they go, and I'd go, "Yeah, you're right, that's so good. I'm having that." They were clever. They were clever salespeople. I lost so much money in that shop, but there we go. I had the same guy here in Arlington, a local record shop. At first, you know, I'd be looking through the new releases and he'd play something. I go, "What is that?" He go, you know, say, "This is The Wind," or whoever, you know, and I go, "Well, I gotta get that." And then it got to the point where I just walk in and you go, it'd be Friday and the new releases come. I go, "You need this one." Okay. You know, he didn't even have to play it. So.
Here's a bag of things that we know that you're going to want.
Here's my paycheck. Yeah.
It's 50 quid. Just give me the 50 quid and you can go. I'll save you all the time. But there was part and parcel of the social experience of sharing music and, you know, and listening to those things. But yeah, it's difficult. I think it is difficult for listeners these days to cut through the noise of there is just so much. And that's one of the reasons I do things like this, because I think it's really good to introduce people into that element as well and say, look, meet these people. Yeah. Right? We don't ever play any music on this show. The reason I don't play the music is because I want people to meet you. And then when they've met you, I want them to go, "Oh, well, that sounds interesting. Oh, he likes the Beatles. You know, so you know, he's really into those kind of harmonies. Let's go and check it out. Let's now check it out."
Well, hopefully they haven't turned it off by now, and you know,
why would they? Why would they do that? Yeah, as I say, I was listening to your album earlier today. Wonderful album. Really, really enjoyed it. So tell us a little bit, when did this project start? So it's got Flavor of the Month. What a great title as well.
So I guess 2019, before the pandemic, I was working on an album called Home. And while I was working on that, the label Spider Pop, which is part of Big Stir now, they wanted to put out a single each month, just a free download thing. And so that just kept people interested till the Home album came out. And of course, as soon as Home came out, the pandemic hit. So, you know, the last thing anybody wanted to hear anything about was Home, because that's where everybody was. But so this Flavor of the Month, this album, I was doing it with two guys in Nashville, Pat Buchanan and Scott Trammell, and so we would just send files back and forth, and Scott would mix it real quick, and we would get it out. And then, so the label wanted to put those songs out. So I said, well, let me mess them up first before you put them out. Let me add a bunch of stuff nobody wants to hear and remix it and mess it up, and then you can put it out. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah. Have you enjoyed the process of writing music in that way? I mean, I know some musicians that I've spoken to have said, you know, out of being forced into it, in one way, it's been really quite liberating to write music in that way. I write a bit, share it like that. Or were you already writing music like that before? Or did you typically go into a room and write music with people previously?
These songs were written by me. I would just send them off to Nashville for those guys to work them up, and then send it back to me. And I go, no, you know, we go back and forth, because I didn't have time to mess with them, because I was working on Home, the album before this one. So all those songs were written before. So they was to go, well, you know, it's another month, give me a song. So I'd go through my old song. Here, you take this one. Yeah. So that's kind of how that worked.
But you've enjoyed the process?
Yeah, because it took a lot of pressure off me.
Right.
All I had to do was say, no, I don't like that part. Or, you know, that's all I had to do. So that made it a lot easier, whereas usually it's me writing, recording, mixing everything. So
absolutely. Now, I also have to say, I'm very envious of your top there, sir.
What's that?
I'm very envious of your top that you're wearing. I've only got one that says Weird Fish, but you've got your top. You've got stereo. You've got stereo armpits. So that's
I mean, well, you know, they go, I'm coming to you in stereo today. Actually, in stereo.
In stereo. Yeah. That's my kind of dad joke. I've got various band t-shirts, and depending upon the band t-shirt, I tell my kids that I'm in something. My favorite is I've got various Rush t-shirts, so I can go, I'm in a Rush.
There you go.
See, there you go. That is the way to. So with that one, you're always coming in stereo. That's exactly the way forward. Yeah,
I couldn't find a mono one, so it had to be stereo.
So, the album's out. The album's been released.
It comes out February 25th, I think.
February the 25th. Okay, cool. And the best place to get it?
Anywhere. You can go to bigstar.com or spiderpop.com, or you can get it on Amazon or any places where you buy.
Yeah, because the record company sent me the link to the record company website. It's a really nice website.
Yeah. They kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, Big Sir.
No, they do. They're good. They're good people.
Yeah, and you say you know some of the other people, label mates on the label as well. So you'd say there's a good place to start if you didn't know where to start with music. Just go and have a listen to the record labels. So, in terms of ambition for you going forward, you've obviously had quite a life in music already. Is there anything left unfurled? Is there any stone left unturned that you would like to achieve in terms of your music career?
Maybe a good lunch after this is done. No.
Yeah.
No, just do something that touches somebody one way or the other. I'd rather people hate it than just say, it's okay.
Is there anyone that you would love to have played with over the years, or if you'd have ever had the opportunity?
Yeah, I have to go back to the Ian Hunter and the Ray Davies thing.
Ray Davies, yeah.
But there's lots of people like that.
Well, we'll tag them in. We'll see whether we can make that happen.
Okay.
You know,
I've met both of those, just briefly, like after a show. But yeah,
yeah,
that was pretty interesting. It's sort of like Ray was real showy and like, he had
yeah,
he was Mr. Showbiz, and he came on and he did his thing and got on the bus and left. And Ian was more like down to earth and
yeah. Well,
but
you never know until you ask. So, we'll do the asking for you. See what happens.
there's lots of guys like that I would love to sit in a bar and have a drink and talk to for hours.
Do you know what some of the best conversations are those conversations? I remember when my son was 1 year old, my youngest, my oldest son now, when he was 1, which is 20 years ago now. I went to, I invited him along, actually. I invited the drummer from Marillion along to a festival that I was doing the radio at. And we sat in the bar, and we were joined at the time by another musician, son of Roy Castle, Ben Castle, who's a fantastic saxophonist, etc. And the two of them had just done an album together, not a jazz album, not a rock album, called Postmankind. But Ian and I were sitting there, and because we're closer in age, we were talking about when he used to play with Steve Hackett, and the early part of his career, and all of these prog bands, etc., that he was playing. And you could just see Ben was like, "Who?" And we were like, "What do you mean? What do you mean who?" So it was a really, really great conversation. He was completely out of it, but yeah, it's and that's the thing though that I love about music, is that it transcends generations. When when you've got a love for music and you love a particular form of music, etc., that it doesn't really matter how old that person is. If they share that same passion and the same love for that music as well, you can get together with those people and you can play, and it's good.
So the thing that I like about kids that listen to older music now, they just put it in one category. Whereas like growing up, if you like the Ramones, you didn't listen to Leonard Skinner. If you listened to Leonard Skinner, you didn't listen to the Ramones. There was that, and they just lump it all together, and they either like it or they don't.
Yeah, I think that's I think that is now a healthier thing with music.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Definitely. Yeah, there was definitely a fashion associated with music back in the day. And you talk about Ray Davis, mods and skins and all of that sort of thing. If you were one, you definitely didn't listen to the music of the other. But nowadays it's most youngsters are pretty onto that. It's like, oh yeah, I listen to this and I listen to that, and it's just sometimes we have to turn them on to stuff that's a little bit better.
Yeah, that's good, but you might want to listen to this. Yeah.
That's all very good, but there you go. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks so much for sharing just a little bit of your time and your music with us. Do go and check out Lannie Flowers and his latest album. It's the flavor of the month.
And it's only good for a month, so you better listen.
It's only good for a month, so just get on and listen to it now.
That's right. It's a now thing, yeah.
It's a now thing. It's good for February, but by March, he's on to the next album. Yeah, there you go.
It's old news by then.
Absolutely. Well, that's the next album. It's old news.
Old news. Then. Yeah, there you go.
It's old news. Lannie, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. It was a good time.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. All right.